Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss Drug and Cosmetic Act 1940 and Rules 1945. So this act is actually a very important milestone while we are considering the history of India. You know, the drug is actually a very important thing while humans are concerned. It should be useful, it should not be harmful to our lives. So to ensure the quality of drugs, this act was enacted by British India, and it was enacted in 1940 before independence. So we should know something, that is some matters regarding what you meant by an act. Actually, it in the first stage, a law will be introduced in the form of a bill in the houses of parliament or state legislatures, and it will be discussed in the houses. Then proper changes or any amendments will be made, and it will be finally signed and given assent by the president or governor. And before it is passed, it is usually referred to as a bill. So many bills will be introduced in our houses, but majority of them will not get passed, and sometimes it will be referred to some select committee like that. Okay. And after it has been passed, it is known as what? It will be known as in the name of act. This act is the official name for a bill. So what was the necessity of Drug and Cosmetic Act? So as far as our herbal industry is concerned, adulteration and indiscriminate substitution were the major threats, or are the major threats to the fast developing herbal drug industry. You know, many of the drugs are scarce, and adulteration was done in order, and indiscriminate substitution was also happening in drug industry. So this what will happen, this reduces the quality of drugs, and also its demand in global market. So there comes the need of proper rules and regulations. When this act was formed or framed initially in 1940, these herbal drugs were not included. It was included later. Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940 is actually a major step in this regard to ensure the quality of drugs. Now let's discuss the history. What was the history behind the formation of this act? Actually, there was after the World War, and the Indian markets were dumped with low quality drugs which was imported from outside the country, and we are getting low quality medicine. We are not getting proper health care, and the British authority was not at all concerned about the health of Indian citizens. So there was a constant effort and constant demand from the medical association and pharmaceutical firms to ensure the quality, and so that they formed a drug enquiry committee, and this drug enquiry committee gives some recommendations. As a result, in 1937, a bill was introduced in the Central Legislative Assembly to give effect to these recommendations of the Drug Enquiry Committee (DEC) to regulate what? To regulate the import of drugs into British India. So those recommendations was to regulate the import of drugs. Then what happened? This bill was referred to the Select Committee, and the committee expressed the opinion that a more comprehensive measure for the uniform control of manufacture and distribution of drugs as well as of imports was desirable. So they included the other two things, that is the manufacture and distribution also. Then the central government suggested to the provincial governments. Earlier there were many provinces throughout the British India, you know, Travancore province, Sindh province, like that. So the central government suggested to the provincial governments to ask the provincial legislatures to pass resolutions so as to empower the central legislature to pass an act for regulating the matters concerned with or relating to the control of drugs. As a result, the provincial governments got the resolution passed from the provincial legislatures, and then they send it to the central government for getting through the bill to regulate the import, manufacture, distribution and sale of drugs and cosmetics. Thus, thereupon, the Drugs and Cosmetic Bill was introduced into the Assembly, Central Legislative Assembly, and it was received the assent of the Governor General on 10th April. You should remember the date, that is 10th April 1940, and thus became the Drugs and Cosmetic Acts 1940. So this was the summary. This was the history behind the formation of Drug and Cosmetic Act. And the extent of the act, now it is not having any relevance, because earlier it was said that it extends to the whole of India, the words except the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and it was omitted by the Act 19 of 1972. Now, chapters. Let's discuss the chapters that is included under Drug and Cosmetic Act. Actually, there is 5 chapters. 5 chapters. It contains total 5 chapters, and the chapter which is dealing with the provisions of Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani drugs is chapter 4a. So as far as we Ayurvedic people are concerned, the chapter 4a is important to us. So we will be given stress to the sections coming under 4a. This act actually regulate all the drugs, that is the modern medicine, that is allopathic drugs, homeo drugs, all those drugs, but we are mainly focusing on what? This chapter 4a. And each chapter is again divided into sections. These sections will be describing the law or the matter concerned, and it consists of 2 schedules. So we have discussed it consists of 5 chapters, and the chapter 4a deals with the provisions related to ASU drugs, and it contains, then comes 2 schedules, the first schedule and the second schedule. So in the first schedule, let's discuss the schedules. That is, in the first schedule, there is given a list of books. Name of books in Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani Tibetan system of medicines is mentioned. So it is as far as Ayurveda books is concerned, it include books from Arogya Kalpadruma to Vangasena, and around 54 books are given as a list. And later, by amending this act, 3 books were also included, and in name 54A, 54B and 54C. So 54A is actually Ayurveda Formulary of India. You know, Ayurveda Formulary of India is AFI, and second book is Ayurveda Sara Sangraha, that is 54B, and 54C is Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India. So various amendments are made to this act from decades. That is, last amendment happened in 2018. So the many years you have to remember while we are focusing on certain competitive examinations, but as far as a BMS student is concerned, there is no requirement to remember all those years. Okay. So first of all, we have to remember in the first schedule what is included. It include the name of books, in these systems. In second schedule, second means standards. Second deals with standards. So it deals with the standards to be complied by imported drugs and drugs manufactured for sale, stocked or exhibited for sale or distribution. So what all preservatives or what all coloring agents, those two should be added, what are the standards that should be complied by those things, and everything is described in this second schedule. Now let's discuss the chapters one by one. First of all, chapter 1, it is actually introductory. and it explains the extent and commencement, and gives definitions such as drug, government analyst, patent or proprietary medicine, etc. So it defines Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani drugs, such as Ayurvedic, Siddha or Unani drug includes all medicines intended for internal or external use, or in the diagnosis, treatment, mitigation or prevention of disease or disorder in human beings or animals, and manufactured, how it is manufactured, exclusively in accordance with the formulae described in the authoritative books of ASU systems of medicine specified in the first schedule. So there comes the importance of first schedule. Whatever books is mentioned in that schedule, all those formulae included under those books or included in those books can be termed as an Ayurvedic drug. So you know Gugulu Tiktagam Kashayam, Gugulu Tiktagam Kwadam or Gridam, it is mentioned in Ashtanga Hridayam. Then we can give the reference, that is it is included in the schedule 1. So there is no violation of this act. Actually we are preparing that drug according to the reference given in the schedule. Okay. Then what do you mean by a patent or proprietary medicine? It is defined all formulations containing only such ingredients mentioned in the formulae described in the authoritative books of ASU systems of medicine specified in the first schedule, but does not include a medicine which is administered by parenteral route. So parenteral route is omitted, and a proprietary medicine means those drugs should be included in those books mentioned in the schedule 1, and it is formulated by according to our yukti, according to our logic. We can formulate a group of drugs for a specific disease conditions, then we can go for a license like that. Okay. And if we are preparing, or if we are formulating a exclusively new drug, we have to go for clinical trials and animal studies like that, in order to ensure the safety and efficacy. Otherwise we can get a license for manufacturing these proprietary medicines if we are given the clinical trials only. So this is the proprietary medicines in relation with the ASU drug. This is the definition. So all formulations containing only such ingredients mentioned in the formulae described in the authoritative books of Ayurveda, Siddha or Unani Tibetan systems of medicine specified in the first schedule, but does not include a medicine which is administered by parenteral route. Now let's discuss chapter 2. That is, second chapter is about the boards that is constituted under this act. The Drug Technical Advisory Board, it can be termed as DTAB, Drugs Technical Advisory Board. Second one is the Central Drugs Laboratory, CDL, and the third one the Drugs Consultative Committee. All these things are dealt in chapter 2, and in chapter 3 it deals with the import of drugs and cosmetics, in which it has sections like standards of quality, and which describes the misbranded drugs, adulterated drugs, spurious drugs and misbranded cosmetics, spurious cosmetics, and prohibition of import of certain drugs or cosmetics, power of central government to prohibit import of drugs and cosmetics in public interest, and application of law relating to sea customs and powers of customs officers, power of central government to make rules, offences, confiscation and jurisdiction. So chapter 3 is exclusively focusing on the import of drugs. whatever it may be, it deals with the import of drugs and the prohibition of import of certain drugs and cosmetics, and it explains, it has sections which explain the prohibit or which import of drugs and cosmetics in public interest, and it will be imported from outside country, and there will be in relation with the sea customs, and powers of customs officers are described. So, and the confiscation, jurisdiction, etc. are all described in this chapter 3. So while first of all, you should remember that chapter 3 is exclusively focusing on what? Import. Then comes chapter 4. Chapter 4 deals with the manufacture, sale and distribution of drugs and cosmetics, and it includes the sections, that is, it includes standards of quality which should be satisfied by the manufacturing firms, and which should be satisfied by the drugs which is exhibited for sale. Okay. Then it describes the misbranded drugs coming under this chapter, then adulterated drugs, spurious drugs, then misbranded cosmetics, spurious cosmetics, prohibition of manufacture and sale of certain drugs and cosmetics, disclosure of the name of the manufacturer. If some person is involved in this manufacture of these misbranded cosmetics or misbranded drugs or spurious cosmetics or drugs, we should disclose the name of that manufacturer in order to identify and in order to avoid him from the field of manufacturing. We have to publish his name. Maintenance of records and furnishing of information, then government analyst, etc. All these things are explained in chapter 4. Now comes chapter 5. Under the chapter 5, miscellaneous things are explained, that is, offences by companies, offences by government departments, penalty, publication of sentences passed under this act, and magistrates' power to impose enhanced penalties, etc. So these are the things, miscellaneous things coming under the chapter 5. Okay. Now comes the chapter, that is chapter 4a. This is, as I already told you, this is important for we people, that is for Ayurveda people, and it includes the provisions relating to Ayurvedic, Siddha and Unani drugs. And it explains Ayurvedic, Siddha and Unani drugs technical advisory board. It explains the central government shall, by notification in the official gazette, it should constitute a board. It is known as ASUDTAB, and it should be called as Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani Drugs Technical Advisory Board. What is the function of that board? It is for constituted in order to advise the central government and state governments on technical matters. So that is the function of this advisory board. It should give advices to the government on these technical matters. Then the members that constitute this board is the Director General of Health Services ex officio, the Drugs Controller of India ex officio, the Principal Officer dealing with Indian Systems of Medicine ISM in the Ministry of Health, the Director of Central Drugs Laboratory Calcutta, one person holding the appointment of government analyst to be nominated by the central government, and one pharmacognosist to be nominated by the central government, one phytochemist, 4 persons to be nominated by the central government, 2 from the Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia Committee, 1 from Unani Pharmacopoeia Committee, and 1 from Siddha Pharmacopoeia Committee. So representatives from every Pharmacopoeia Committee should be there. 2 are from Ayurveda and 1 each from Unani and Siddha. And 1 teacher in Dravya Guna and Vaishya Kalpana. One teacher in Ilm ul Adwiya and Takliswa Dawajasi. It deals with the Baishaja and Dravyaguna part of Unani medicines. And one teacher in Gunapadam. Gunapadam means the Siddha Dravyaguna part. It's dealing under Gunapadam. Then three persons, one each to represent the Ayurvedic, Siddha and Unani drug industry. Three persons, one each from practitioners of ASU systems of medicine, all to be nominated by the central government. So these are the members whom constitute the board, that is Drug Technical Advisory Board, ASU Drug Technical Advisory Board. And the central government shall appoint a member of the board as its chairman, and the nominated members of the board shall hold office for 3 years but shall be eligible for renomination. The central government shall appoint a person to be secretary of the board and shall provide the board with such clerical and other staff as the central government considers necessary. Now, the Ayurvedic, Siddha and Unani Consultative Committee. The next committee is, we have discussed the board, now it is the Consultative Committee, DCC, that is ASU DCC. The central government may constitute an advisory committee to be called the Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani Drugs Consultative Committee to advise the central government, the state governments and the technical board and the technical advisory board DTAB on any matter for the purpose of securing uniformity throughout India in the administration of this act related to ASU drugs. The committee shall consist of 2 persons to be nominated by the central government as representatives of that government, and not more than 1 representative of each state to be nominated by the state government. Now, under the chapter 4a, the misbranded drugs are defined. If it is so colored, coated or polished that damage is concealed, or if it is made to appear of better or greater therapeutic value than it really is. So actually a low quality drug is that, and it was given a good appearance by coloring or polishing or concealing the damage. Such a drug can be called as what? A misbranded drug. And if it is not labeled in the prescribed manner, there are some rules and regulations regarding the labeling of drugs. If it is not followed, then it is considered to be a misbranded drug. Next condition is, if its label or container or anything accompanying the drug bears any statement, design which makes any false claim for the drug, or which is false or misleading in any particular. That is, if they are saying that in the label, this drug is will cure any disease, like it cure diabetes or it cure arthritis, like that, any such labeling or such statement is exhibited on that label, then that is considered to be a misbranded drug. Adulterated drug. So we have discussed what do you mean by a misbranded drug. Now we are going to discuss adulterated drugs. If it consists in whole or in part of any filthy, putrid or decomposed substance. So first condition, if it in part or in whole, if it consists of any decomposed substance, any dirty thing, if it is associated, then it can be considered adulterated. Then, if it has been prepared, packed or stored under insanitary conditions so that it may get contaminated with filth, or it may have been rendered injurious to health. That is, if we go for an inspection and see that that medicine is prepared under unhygienic conditions, if it is prepared and stored or anything is unhygienic, it can be termed as adulterated. That is, that thing will be injurious to health. That is why it is known as adulterated. Then third condition, if its container, if its container is composed in whole or in part of any poisonous or deleterious substance which may render the contents injurious to health. That is, its container, if it contains any harmful metallic part, or if it is any reacting thing with this medicine, then it can be termed as adulterated. Then next condition is if it contains a color other than one which is prescribed. The list of coloring things and all those are explained in the sections coming under this act. And if it contains a color other than one which is prescribed, that is the standards, we have explained that in the schedule. So schedule 2 composed of standards. So according to the standard, many coloring agents will be described. If it contains a coloring agent or color that which is not prescribed, it can be termed as adulterated drug. Then if it contains any harmful or toxic substance which may render it injurious to health, that is, if it contains any dangerous substance that is causing injurious to health, or it is becoming toxic to our body. Then if any substance has been mixed therewith so as to reduce its quality of strength, this thing is happening majority of in our market. That is, we are adulterating the things with similar things or similar appearing things. That is, suppose if we are adulterating this marija, that is pepper, with the seeds of papaya, like that we can see adulteration. And brick powder is added with the chili powder, like that. If any substance has been mixed with so as to reduce its quality or strength, all those things I explained, that is coming with the food adulteration. But as far as drugs is concerned, we can say if guduji sattva, suppose it is adulterated, if it is adulterated with by adding any other things that look similar to it, for example arrowroot powder, like that, in such a way we can identify a drug as adulterated. So these are all about adulterated drugs. Then comes spurious drugs. Spurious drugs, if it is sold or offered or exhibited for sale under a name which belongs to another drug. For example, if a drug is there in the market which is having good efficacy, and suppose a manufacturer who is a fake one, he is exhibiting a similar product, that is mimicking the name by simple substitution with a letter alphabet, like that we can see many products in market. That is, for example alloxane, by removing one letter L, alloxane, like that we can see these drugs in market. If it is an imitation of or substitute for another drug, or resembles another drug in a manner likely to deceive, or it has upon its label or container the name of another drug, unless it is plainly and conspicuously marked so as to reveal its true character and its lack of identity with such other drug. So anything that will make the consumer or make the patient confused, any confusions that is making in the label so as to resemble it with the another product, that can be termed as spurious drug. Or if the label or container bears the name of an individual or company purporting to be the manufacturer of the drug, which an individual or company is fictitious or does not exist. So they are claiming that that product belongs to that company belonging to US, then actually there will be no company, and they are bearing false claim. Then if the label or container that already discussed, then if it has been substituted wholly or in part by any other drug or substance, and if it purports to be the product of a manufacturer of whom it is not truly a product. And suppose I already told you, if there is a manufacturer in US and some for a fake product will be marketed into India, claiming that this product belongs to that manufacturer, so that can be considered to be a spurious drug. Actually that manufacturer didn't manufacture this drug, didn't market this drug, but this false claim is made by the distributors in India. Like that we can consider the spurious drug. Then comes Chapter 4a deals with the prohibition of manufacture and sale of certain ASU drugs, and that is any misbranded, adulterated or spurious ASU drugs. Any patent or proprietary medicine, unless there is displayed in the prescribed manner on the label or container the true list of all the ingredients contained in it. If that list is not displayed in the label, we can prohibit, the authority can prohibit the sale. Then any ASU drug in contravention of any of the provisions of this chapter or any rule made thereunder. Sell, stock or exhibit or offer for sale or for distribution any ASU drug which has been manufactured in contravention of any provisions of this act. All those things can be prohibited. Then chapter 4a explains, the section explains the government analyst. Government analyst, the section dealing with is 33F. And the central government or a state government may by notification in the official gazette appoint such person whom such government analyst having the prescribed qualification to be government analyst for such areas as may be assigned to them by the central government or state government. So there will be licensing authorities in the state, and this government analyst will be working under that authority. Duties of the government analyst. If we go through the duties, this analyst shall analyze or test such samples of ASU drugs as may be sent to him by inspectors. There will be inspectors in the fields, and by those inspectors they will send certain samples to this analyst, and or sometimes any other person or authority authorized by the central government or state government. Anybody will send some samples, then this analyst will test that sample and give shall furnish the reports of the results, and according to the provision of 4a. Then a government analyst shall from time to time should forward the report to the government, and by giving the result of analytical work, and he can publish this as the research works for public interest. Then comes inspectors. Inspectors come under the section 33G of this act. The central government or a state government, like the appointment of analyst, should appoint whom an inspector should be appointed. Then no person who has any financial interest in the manufacture or sale of any drug shall be appointed to be an inspector. This is very important. Duties of inspector. Inspector may, within the local limits of the area for which he is appointed, inspect any premises wherein any drug or cosmetic is being manufactured, and the means employed for standardizing and testing the drug or cosmetic. So this inspector should inspect the premises where drug manufacturing is taking place, and any premises where these drugs are sold, stocked or exhibited or distributed. So these places also he should inspect. and take samples for any drug or cosmetics. As I already told you under the section of analyst, by inspectors, these samples will be sent to the analyst. So this is the duty to take sample. This is the duty of the inspector. And which is manufactured or sold or is stocked or exhibited or offered for sale or distributed. These samples also should take from any person who is in course of conveying, delivering or preparing to deliver such drug or cosmetic to a purchaser. Then it discusses with the penalty. Those himself or by any other person on his behalf manufactures or for sale or for distribution any ASU drug deemed to be adulterated, if someone is involved in these malpractices without a valid license as required, shall be punishable. That is, if he is manufacturing without a license, then it is punishable. That act is punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year and with fine which shall not be less than 2000 rupees. And any Ayurvedic Siddha or Unani drug deemed to be spurious shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 1 year but which may extend to 3 years, and with fine which shall not be less than 5000 rupees. So these are the penalties. The central government may, after consultation with or on the recommendation of the board and after previous publication by notification in the official gazette, makes rules. So the power, these are, it deals with the chapter 4, it deals with the power of the central government to make rules. Such rules may provide for the establishment of laboratories. Those laboratories are established for testing and analyzing of Ayurvedic drugs or ASU drugs. And these rules prescribe the qualification and duties of government analysts and qualifications of inspectors. And it may prescribe the methods of test or analysis to be employed in determining these ASU drugs. And specify any substance as a poisonous substance. Prescribe the forms of licenses for the manufacture for sale of ASU drugs, and prescribe the conditions to be observed in the packing of ASU drugs, including the use of packing materials which comes into direct contact with the drugs, regulate the mode of labeling packed drugs, and prescribe the matter which shall or shall not be included in such labels. Prescribe the conditions subject to which small quantities of Ayurvedic ASU drugs may be manufactured for the purpose of examination, test or analysis. And it prescribes the color or colors which an ASU drug may bear or contain for purposes of coloring. Prescribe the standards for ASU drugs. So this is all about Drug and Cosmetic Act in a nutshell. And for a BMS syllabus, this much thing will be required while it is asked for a 5-mark question. So in this presentation, in this video, we have discussed the Drug and Cosmetic Act only. We shall discuss the rules in the next video. So till then, thank you for your patient listening. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comment section.